When getting started in growing your own food, your garden doesn't have to be a hazard zone. By taking certain measures and precautions, we can make sure that we are in a peaceful oasis that we feel safe in. In today's quick video, I'm going to share with you some safety tips that you can implement that can help you to avoid injury, cuts, scrapes, or even getting hurt altogether. And stick around to the end of this video because I will share some of my personal emergency preparedness items.
As you fade away, as you fade away.
If you've been thinking about growing your own food recently and starting a garden, then there is no better place and time than right now. Gardening is absolutely therapeutic and helps you to relieve and release stress. So if you have been stressing out recently, I'm confirming to you right now that gardening has absolutely helped me and saved me a lot of stress. So I know it will work for you also. It will help your nervous system to calm down and relax. I highly recommend it, and you will thank yourself for starting a garden. Okay, let's get started. This is video 6 of our 7-part series of how to grow your own food at home on a budget. In today's episode, we're talking mainly about safety and keeping yourself safe when you're gardening. The first thing we're going to talk about today and keeping yourself safe in your garden is your appropriate apparel when gardening, right? Ideally, you want to be wearing pants, especially if you're dealing with plants that have thorns. Anytime you're in the garden and you're digging huge holes or you're pruning trees with thorns and all this stuff, make sure you're wearing a good quality denim pants. This pants right here is just pure cotton. A lot of the pants now are, they have some spandex in them. So they stretch now, a lot of the pants. Those pants can be more comfortable, but original 100% cotton pants, they're more durable and thick. So just realize that you'll have a little bit more protection with 100% cotton pants. If you're going for comfort, then you can use those other pants. I've seen them at 98% cotton and 2% spandex. I got a few pairs myself, and I realized that a lot of those other pants, they're quite thin, so the protection is not going to be as good. Another thing is, just wearing long sleeve t-shirts when you're out in the garden, right? Just make sure you're wearing something that is protective. It'll help prevent you from getting a lot of scrapes, cuts, especially when you're dealing with blackberries, raspberries, certain berries and stuff. They got a lot of big thorns on them, so just be careful. Roses and stuff. Also, having proper footwear when you're working in the garden. Make sure you got a good set of shoes, a nice thick shoes with good protection, or steel toe boots even. I like to use the rubber boots most of the time because they're just great, slip on and off, and they're waterproof up to the height of the boot. The more heavy duty jobs, I'll use steel toe. And next we move on, of course, to good gloves. Having good gloves is a must when gardening. Like this gloves right here. These ones have leather on the palms and fingers, and then outside it's a more like breathable material. These gloves are pretty good. I'm always using these gloves when I'm pruning the trees and pruning the fruit trees and stuff around my yard. These gloves are pretty good. They're comfortable and they keep your hands quite cool when you're working. I'll leave some links down in the description box for this specific brand, which has been around since 1907. So over 100 years this company's been around. Definitely recommend them. Just make sure that the gloves that you're using have good protection in your palms. This one is real leather. Once you got a good set of gloves, the next thing you're going to need is good eyewear protection. You can use just the basic clear eyeglasses. If you're working in the sun a lot, then ideally you want something with a little bit of UV protection for your eyes, especially on those bright sunny days. Weed whacking, any kind of job that you're doing where your eyes is kind of in the front lines, make sure you get yourself a good set of eye protection, right? These are 3Ms actually, these glasses, and they're pretty good. Honestly, you can adjust them on the side to your ear length and stuff. They're pretty comfortable. They fit pretty good too when you put these on. They fit pretty good and they feel pretty snug, like around the corners and stuff. You got like a lot of protection on the sides. So whenever I'm like weed whacking and stuff, this one I got the full protection of the eyes. As you can see, today's a hot and sunny day. So the next thing we're going to talk about is sunscreen. Getting the right type of sunscreen when you're working out in the sun. If I left anything out in safety preparedness, then leave a comment down below and let us know what other safety measures that we can use to keep ourselves safe in the garden. On this channel, I don't promote any of the big brand toxic sunscreens, in my personal opinion. I like to keep it natural and simple. Some of the remedies that I use sometimes is just organic virgin coconut oil or organic virgin olive oil. Just those things right there will help to protect your skin and keep it hydrated. You can also add a little bit of aloe into coconut or olive oil, just to give you that extra protection. And I've also seen people adding zinc oxide into like a mix. Just a good simple coconut or olive oil with some aloe in there will do the job. Another good thing to have when you're gardening, especially when you go on your knees and you're pulling weeds or pruning, you can spend a lot of time on your knees in the garden. It's having some type of padding that you can actually just put in the ground and, you know, go on your knees will help your knees big time. This is just a simple mat that you usually see in like the gyms and stuff, but there's other ones that are more rectangular, and those are pretty cool too, because they're like half the size of this. But any type of mat, if you need some kind of cushioning, make sure you're putting some cushion under your knees. Another thing you can use in your garden is having some kind of natural bug spray, just in case you need them, you know, like for insect bites and whatnot. And a good remedy for this is getting some lemongrass. And what you want to do is like take a handful. If you can get like a good handful, right? You cut the lemongrass, you take the long leaves and you just wrap it around the thick part of the stems, right? And you can tie it in like a little knot. And with that little bunch of lemongrass, you can put that into like a pot with maybe about a half gallon of water, and then just boil the lemongrass for a little bit, maybe like 10 minutes. Turn off the stove, let it steep. Just leave it there for like the next hour or two. And all the extract from the lemongrass will come out into the water. And that thing is an amazing bug spray, especially for mosquitoes. Another thing you can do to increase the potency of that bug spray is add a few drops of oregano oil. Whatever you do, make sure you don't get this in your eyes, right? But with the lemongrass and some oregano oil in there, you know, you can put it in a spray bottle, shake it up, and just spray it on your arms and stuff. Because oregano is so powerful, insects and bugs will stay far away from you. Another quick tip is make sure you're drinking a lot of water when out in the garden, right? A lot of people get dehydrated and they don't even realize it half of the time. Anytime your mouth feels dry, you're already dehydrated. So constantly be hydrating with water. You know, roughly, if you're drinking about a gallon a day of water, then you're in good hands. Another important thing to have, in my opinion, when gardening is having a box of latex gloves. A good set of latex gloves. These things come in handy. I'm always using them all the time. Whenever you're handling chemicals or fertilizers, these guys are great. So I highly recommend getting a box of good latex gloves. Another quick thing we gotta mention is your tools when working in the garden, right? Make sure you're getting quality tools over cheap tools, because in the long run, this will make your job way easier and you'll save much more time. And as far as having certain tools and stuff, make sure you're maintaining the tools throughout time. Sometimes you gotta add a little bit of grease or oil in between the joints, you know, to just keep them nice and smooth. And the blades too, you know, once in a while you can clean them with a little bit of alcohol and just take off the sap and stuff. Just simple things like that will keep your tools running longer and keep them of a high quality. Avoid using tools that are damaged and somewhat broken. That's just gonna expose yourself to danger when you're using broken tools or tools that are missing parts and whatnot. So avoid doing that. Another thing we gotta mention is child safety. So if you have children, or maybe your neighbors have children and there's a possibility of them coming into your garden space, just make sure you're keeping your garden space safe, right? Fertilizers, any type of chemicals, keep them out of reach with tools also. And some people build safety fences around their garden too, just to keep their toddlers safe. So look at your own unique situation and you can figure that out, whether you need it or not. And finally, my personal emergency preparedness items that I always keep on hand, just in case things go down. This one is a cool thing to have always on hand, and it's quite cheap as well. It's just having simple super glue on hand. I think this is a must-have for anyone who works in the garden or not, because this thing has saved me a bunch of times, whether I got sliced or in certain situations. This is a budget hack fix for yourself in some situations. I've avoided getting stitches because of having super glue on hand. This will come in handy in certain situations, and it's a great thing to have. You know, you can basically squeeze your wound together, super glue it down, and it'll hold pretty good. Not in all cases, but in quite a few cases, this thing works like a champ. Super glue is a must. Next, an important thing to have is just a basic needle and sewing kit. Just a basic needle and some thread. In certain situations and emergencies, just in case, you know you can stitch yourself back together if you had to. Or even animals, right? People do this all the time with animals. For whatever case, having a needle and thread, in my opinion, is a must. That's two right there. Another one, of course, we cannot leave out is just a basic first aid kit. This is a must-have for any situation, whether you're gardening or not. Just get your basic first aid kit and you'll be good to go. And of course, we can't leave out hydrogen peroxide and some alcohol. This thing has saved me from getting infections quite a few times already. So I absolutely love this thing. This is a definitely must-have. And having alcohol on hand, in my opinion, is kind of important, honestly. Mine is almost out already and I gotta buy a new one. Another thing people like to have is something like Neosporin on hand, just in case they get cuts, scrapes, bruises and whatnot. So if you like Neosporin, make sure you add that into your emergency preparedness kit. Lastly, having emergency contact numbers in your cell phone, just in case something happens and you need to take quick action. This is quite a smart thing to have, in my opinion. They have such things as the poison hotline, just in case you get poisoned by poison ivy, certain plants and whatnot, even chemicals, right? So they have a place called poison.org that actually has their own app for iOS and Android. You can find that one in the App Store. I'll leave the number for that one on the screen so you can see it. Adding these numbers into your phone, just in case at a whim's notice you can just take action, is a pretty smart thing to do. There's a website for that one. It's aspca.org. That one is 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And I will leave the number to their organization on the screen. I didn't see an app for the aspca.org, but for the other one I did. Let me know and share your opinion on any types of safety measures and precautions that you take in your garden space in the comments below. I'll leave links down in the description box below on a lot of the items that I mentioned and talked about today. If you absolutely love growing your own food or have been thinking about it recently, then watch this video right here where I show you some simple strategies that you can use to maximize your harvest when growing food in a tiny amount of space.